Welcome back to Morgantown, West Virginia. It's National Signing Day 2017, and Mountaineer fans, you'll be happy to know we are sitting here, Wolf and I, with the man of the hour, Mountaineer head coach Dana Holgorsen. And Coach Holgorsen, once more I can tell you this, every February we do, it's behind you for a couple hours, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll start recruiting the next class here when I'm done with you guys. We'll go into a room and start watching some video and on to the next class. It's never ending, you know. I mean, even the classes overlap at times too. So, you know, we've already been working towards 2018 for a little time, and we'll get going on it hot and heavy here this week.
Well, it's such a difficult thing to gauge. There's not really a science to it, even though people try and apply that approach. An interesting piece was just published recently, and ESPN put together re-ranking some of past recruiting classes, and that kind of stuff fascinates me in delving into this as much as anything with the current recruiting classes. They looked at the 2013 recruiting classes by conference, and what they looked at was, okay, well, how did it actually pan out 4 years later? And you got an interesting take on it, because the 2013 recruiting class, it wasn't blowing anybody's skirt up the day we signed those kids, but here we are 4 years later, they reshuffled the deck. And according to ESPN, West Virginia had the best recruiting class in the Big 12 in 2013. You have a theory as to how that may have played out.
Yeah, I do. I get such a kick out of all these recruiting services and recruiting rankings and who's got the top class, how they think this kid's better than that kid. I mean, it's nothing but somebody's opinion. Yeah. You know, that's all it is. I mean, we don't pay any attention to the recruiting rankings, and you know, quite honestly, that's for fans and for some specific sites to sell subscriptions and magazines and stuff like that. So hopefully all the fans get a good kick out of that. We don't pay any attention to it. Dr. Gia hit me up yesterday and he says, "How's our class look?" And I go, "Well, I don't know. I'll tell you in 3 years."
There you go.
Because you really just don't know. I mean, I don't care what the rankings are, what these guys are 5-star, 3-star, 2-star. It doesn't matter. Pay attention to the Super Bowl this weekend. They'll publish this throughout during the game. Yeah. They'll put up the average starting lineup for both teams, what they were coming out of high school, and it averages somewhere around 2.5 stars. So how does it really matter at the end of the day? I tell you, to answer your question, Orange Bowl year, we finished 10-3 and had that great game. A lot of momentum going into the recruiting off season. If you don't recruit kids for an entire year and a half, 2 years, you don't get those guys. So you finish with 10 wins, everybody's like, oh, wow, we're going to have a great signing day here in a month. Well, you can't get in on kids like that. Those guys know where they're going 90% of the time. You win 10 games, you win the Orange Bowl. Much like we did this year, you win 10 games, you finish second in the Big 12. You got a whole year to recruit off that. Sure. So look for next year's signing class to have a little bit more hype, a little bit more momentum moving forward.
Sure, because you're building the relationship right now, and by the time it gets around to be next fall, you've had that relationship established, and that's because of the 10 games, for sure. I see that. Going into the midseason, you have 10 players. You have 7 junior college guys. The Big 12 model recruiting has kind of changed for WVU, especially since from the Big East, because you can't just develop a guy for 3-4 years and say, okay, now go play. You have to fill in throughout because you're playing 80-90 reps per game on all 3 sides of the ball. It's just too many players need to perform. So you see a lot more junior college guys.
Yeah, you like winning now, don't you, Wolf?
I do.
I mean, everybody's like, you win 10, that's great, but you better win 10 or 11 next year. And the only way you can do that is keep replenishing what you lose. I think we found a formula that works. I mean, this transfer thing is not going to go away. I tell you the other thing that we can dig into a little bit is what we're doing today, the National Signing Day today. It ain't going to happen anymore. I mean, the rules are changing. More midterm guys are going to be coming into play, whether they're junior college, high school. Those guys kind of deserve a signing day as well. You know, your son Maverick didn't have a signing day, and I think that's unfair. I think those guys need a signing day, and all indications is there's going to be a signing day in December. That's going to do a couple of different things. It means today's going to lose its luster, and today for the Mountaineers, I mean, we signed half our class today, half our class in December. We'll get used to it. That's just the way this is going to be. There's going to be more kids signing in December, and today's going to go away, which is completely fine with me. You know, it's going to make December much more important. It's going to work out for a lot of different people.
Logistically, walk us through what that might look like. In other words, if you're looking forward to a December signing class, it's not like you guys aren't busy already. I mean, you're already at every drop, every opportunity you have throughout the course of the fall, you're on the road recruiting. So now if you're trying to compete for a Big 12 title game in early December and you don't know what's going on there, what might the first week or two of December look like at that juncture as opposed to the way it currently plays out?
It'd be chaos.
Yeah.
For those 2 weeks in December, it'd be nuts, which is already nuts. I mean, it's still crazy the way it is. It's going to make in-season visits much more important. You know, we tried to, you know, every high school kid that's not a midterm enrollee, we try to push to January visits, because you want to get them in January and have that impact of the visit on their mind when signing day rolls around. So it's going to make December visits important, but it's going to make throughout the season important as well. If a guy's got a bye week and he wants to come check out a home game,
True.
I've said no, you can't come because we want you to come in January. Well, if there's a December signing day,
There you go.
you betcha we're going to come. We're going to have all kinds of official visits during the season. So it's going to make in-season visits much more important, which is going to make it more challenging for coaches to make sure those visits are good. You know, and you know I think it's gonna give some coaches a little bit more power as far as, you know, holding some things over some of these kids. I don't think there's going to be nearly as many hat ceremonies out there. I think kids are going to figure out where they're going to go, and they're going to grab it and they're going to take it, and then it's going to be good. And then you're going to be able to reassess what you need to fill the class in January. You may have 4 or 5 spots, 6 spots available, to where it's going to make January a little bit easier to go target who you need.
I think it's also going to alleviate a lot of the issues for the players themselves when they've already committed so early nowadays, as it has been, that you don't have to go through all this whole January thing and coaches just, you know, all over you, and you're just going to decide what I want to do. I already know what I want to do. I want to go in December. I want to commit to WVU. I don't want to go through that whole January recruiting process.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to really alleviate the issues, because it's difficult.
I don't want to go through that January either, man. I tell you that's why kids get a little bit nuts, and you have flips, and you have guys committing to 6 different schools because they have that whole month of January and they get bored. You know, they don't have the attention, you know, because there's a dead period. There's a 3-week dead period where you can't have any contact with these kids whatsoever. And then it gets kicked back up, and all of a sudden, boom, they're starving for attention. And then you go in there and you start giving them a lot of attention. And then there's more 5 or 6 or 7 other schools coming in giving them more attention. So that's how things get twisted at the end. I just think it's going to be a little bit more cut and dry, and I think it's going to work out not only for the kid, it's going to work out for the schools, and there's going to be a lot of money saved as well. I mean, we don't have to fly all over the country the whole month of January seeing kids that are already signed. So it's going to save a lot of money as well.
So do you think there's a derivative effect? I mean, it seems that in recent years you've seen the recruiting process encroach earlier and earlier. I mean, sometimes these kids, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, are getting serious looks by some of these schools. Do you think there would be an impact on that end of things as well if this is all pushed around and rescheduled?
I don't see how it gets any earlier than it is right now. You mentioned 6th graders.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't
it
know
doesn't become
about,
later.
I don't
is
know
what I'm
about
asking.
6th graders, Judd.
Yeah.
Now, 9th graders are getting camp mail. Okay, you know, and 10th graders. I mean, my son's a 10th grader. He's going to camps, and he's, you know, that sort of thing. I think it's about where it's at right now. I mean, if kids are playing high school football as sophomores, or they're going to camps as freshmen, they're going to be on people's radar. It's tough to really get serious about anybody until they've played their junior year. Once kids have played their junior year, I think you got an idea what that kid's going to be about, and then you need to start recruiting them because they could be signing a year later.
Well, I've heard a suggestion made that maybe it actually has to be pen to paper to keep some coaches out of some junior highs and looking at those kids to make it. That's where I was going with that.
That
In
to
other
me
words,
is
the other
absurd.
direction.
That to
The
me
other
is
direction.
absurd. Yeah,
So,
that's absurd.
you say, Wolf?
Yeah, do you foresee having to do head coaching visits in summer of the senior year?
No. So that's, you know, it's funny because we have these meetings, and there's basketball coaches around when we have these meetings and these discussions. And I've had this with Coach Hugs and his staff a little bit as well. The early signing period for December works, but they're like, be careful about how early you go, because if you go earlier, you got no time off. I mean, if football was to say you can official visit kids in the summer, we would literally have 0 days off. I mean, there's a reason why the NCAA put a 3-week dead period in July, is to be able to give coaches and kids some downtime. And if you had official visits that were available in the summer, there would be 0 downtime. So no football coach is going to approve that. That day's already been denied by the NCAA with the support of all the head coaches. I think it is what it is right now. I think September 1 of that kid's senior year, they can start taking visits. That gives a whole semester to be able to find a time to be able to get that guy on campus, whether it's for a game or whether it's on a December recruiting day.
Well, we're not here to specifically talk about individual kids and how that might project out with you. What I'd like to ask you about is philosophically, and we brought this up with Jay Wan and some of the assistants earlier. Philosophically, it seems every year we have this conversation. Since we jumped into the Big 12 in 2012, a couple different things have played out. First of all, the brand on our shirt when we step into these living rooms is probably a little more potent than it was with the Big East. And that's no knock on the Big East. It's just a fact. And second of all, when we encroach in Florida, there's probably now a little more Big 12 competition in Florida in recent years than there was 5-8 years ago.
Yeah, I see that. I see the Big 12 getting into Florida a little bit. We're still trying to cut our teeth where we've always cut our teeth. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Jersey, those are still very important areas for us. We're starting to dip down into North Carolina and Atlanta, probably a little bit more than we have in the past. It's getting tougher to get guys out of Florida. I mean, that's really where we go against the Big 12 is in Florida or junior colleges. We did get the one, Reggie out of Texas, which is a rare Texas sign that we have. I think Coach Carrier is going to continue to make a little bit of inroads in there, but we've cut our teeth for years and years in the areas that surround the state of West Virginia, and it's been good. I think our brand is really good there, and I think it's going to continue to get better. We're recruiting against Big 10, ACC more than we are Big 12. I like that because we sell something different, and the better the Big 12 is and the more exciting the Big 12 is, the better it's going to be. We finished the top 20 team. There's a lot of knocks on the Big 12 earlier in the season with the non-conference schedule being a complete disaster. Big 12 finished the year pretty good. If you look at the bowl games, we finished 4-2, and we got some teams in the top 20. It's still a great conference with very high quality teams, and that's something to sell in those areas that nobody else can sell.
Looking at your wide receivers this year that you've been taking in, it seems like you're going for a bigger wide receiver. When you got some of the guys 6'5", Stills is 6'3", all know what he's got about him. But it just seems to me like you're going with the bigger receivers now. Maybe for the red zone area to be bigger targets.
Yeah, those guys will help down there. David, he can get the ball into the end zone. I think Maiden can be a guy that can get the ball, and he got great ball skills in 6'5". And it helps to have. Don't forget about the quarterback. That really technically is a part of this class. I mean, we that number's got to go somewhere, So we took a couple of transfers that are 4-year guys that had to sit a year, but they're technically part of this class because that number counts in this class. So we got a bigger quarterback in Will Greer that that can get tall in the pocket, and I think that's going to help red zone. And then when you have a bigger target to be able to throw to, it should help. No secret, we weren't very good in the red zone throwing the football. I think that's fixed with the taller quarterback and some bigger targets as well.
Another philosophical question. West Virginia as a program has always been kind of a blue-collared program. And what we're doing offensively, the direction you've steered, fits so perfectly with what we do. Defensively, what we do seems to fit so perfectly. And you talked about the star rating system earlier. So many people say star ratings are for hotels, not for football players. Well, there's a lot of merit to that. It seems that kid who's overlooked in high school, and he doesn't have that 4 or 5 star rating, typically fits maybe even better at West Virginia because he shows up with, our program is all about having somewhat of a chip on its shoulder. And so when they step in the building with a chip on their own shoulder individually, they kind of fit right in, don't they?
Yeah, that's who we've always been. That's, you guys know that better than I do, but we've taken on that mentality, and it's not going to change. I mean, it's who we have always been. We really played it up last year. The one thing that Skylar did a great job of is embracing that because that's who he was, and that rubbed off on a lot of the players. It's rubbed off on the whole program. we've always got those guys. If you look at who these guys were recruited against and who they had offers from, they typically have a chip on their shoulder and they want to go out there and they want to do good. But I don't know what we're going to do offensively yet, though, Jed. I mean, we got a new coordinator, and I can't wait for that first game against the Hokies to see what we have out there. So we'll probably change a whole bunch of stuff and have a lot of secrets going into that first game.
Good move.
That's a beautiful thing. That's their turn. We've been through it the last couple of years.
That's right.
So,
Well,
West Virginia.
Oh, we're done.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up here.
Okay, man.
I tell you, Coach Dorchester has done a great job with this class. He's coming up next. He'll talk specifics with the guys.
Here we go.
I'm the big picture recruiting guy, just talking, some philosophy and stuff like that. But Ryan Dorchester has done just an outstanding job. Director of player personnel. That starts with recruiting, but this guy knows our team, just as far as what the needs are. I mean, he's brilliant. He knows what we need. He knows what holes to fill, knows the team better than anybody. These guys were pinpointed, whether they're junior college guys, high school guys, offensive guys, defensive guys, what we needed and what we went out and what we got. At the end of the day, we got all our needs filled. We got a few left that we can go out there and we can get as well. He can fill you in on what we're looking for here moving forward as well.
Yeah, Doors seems to be one of those guys who's probably as close as you can get to turning it into a science. He really is. He's very good at it. But there you have it from Coach Dana Holgorsen, what the future might look like in college football recruiting and West Virginia's place in it. We're going to return to Morgantown, West Virginia for a final look at the 2017 West Virginia recruiting class on National Signing Day.